right, so welcome everybody. Looks like we've got about 40 of us in here. There's a total of 135 exploratory track students, so hopefully some more kind of filter in. This is the first of two. You do not have to come to the meeting again tomorrow night. Just have to come to one of these. We're going to give an overview of what to expect during the pre-registration stuff. But before I get too far into it, for those of you who did log in early, good. I just want to briefly go off script for just a second and talk about the majors fair. You might or might not have heard about it. I sent you a reminder, actually the first time I sent you anything with today about that. Normally in the past, the majors fair is a one evening event, at the Mullen Center. It's where they get all the majors in one place at one time. It's a great place, a great opportunity to talk to people from all the different majors. And it's really good for exploratory track students when you're thinking about a backup, when you're thinking about a double major, when you're thinking about a minor, or when you're just thinking about something else. And the timing is perfect too, because you can engage in conversation about the requirements and that kind of thing, create some kind of interest just before you register for spring classes. Well, this year, it's obviously we're not in person, so they have it's a week-long kind of event with a bunch of steps you've got to do where you can sign up for things and you can actually drop in on different types of majors. And there again, it's all based on just kind of asking questions and not having to make appointments. So it's really, really user-friendly, if you will. So Majors Fair, it's this week. I sent you a link, so check your email and take advantage of it and go check it out. I think you'll find that it's worthwhile. All right, let me share my screen and then we will get this thing going. All right, so today is our pre-registration meeting. I kind of call it the large group advising meeting for all the exploratory track students. And this is getting ready for spring 21. It's hard to believe that we're already talking about spring, but we're going to be registering for it very, very soon. It's going to be here before we know it. All right, so this is the agenda that I'm going to use. I'm going to have a quick intro, some programs, the application process, and some changes that went on with that. And then some specifics about spring registration, and then what are we doing next? How are we going to get there from here? Oh, I didn't say, let's keep all the questions until the very end. You're free to write a question on the chat. We're going to kind of wait till the end, unless it's just a really, really burning question. Chances of me covering that information is pretty good, but we'll wait, and Alex, who's helping me out with this, will read the questions at the end, and then we can go through all of those. So we just hold those questions. All right, so that's me. I think you guys have seen me once or twice before. I'm the exploratory track, the first year exploratory track student advisor. Ben, I put him up there because any student who is in their second year and still an exploratory track student, you will be assigned to Ben next year if you're still an AT. Ben also works with computer science majors, and he is the principal IT minor advisor. And I think they've got over 500 students in that program. Okay. So I am your academic advisor. I think you guys all know that. My job is to help you navigate this whole process, navigate majors, narrow your academic focus, and develop some kind of a backup plan. What I mean by that is we're focusing on computer science, but you need to be exploring other things. You need to have some kind of a backup plan. It's the same thing as same decision-making process when you came to UMass. You did some research, you came and visited in some capacity, you talked to some people and you made a decision and you came. Same way with me, and you had a backup plan. You had some backup university or colleges if you didn't get in, or if you didn't get into your first choice. And so it's the same way with majors. So if you don't get into CS, what is the backup plan? You know, you might lose interest or you might not make the grade. So it's very, very important to develop a backup plan. The upside to that is you don't know where a double major interest might come from. You don't know where a minor interest might come from. So there's plenty of upsides to kind of pursuing some kind of a backup plan. And then eventually declaring a major. During the school year, I really would rather do advising in person or actually Zoom. Um, I like to limit the amount of email advising. Not that I'm opposed to it, but two things. It usually is very time consuming, but usually, generally, always one question will have two or three or four different offshoots for answers, which then ask more questions and we can really kind of go back and forth. So feel free to send me your email, but if it gets at least a bit too lengthy, then I'm going to ask you to make an appointment with me so we can actually have a conversation about that. And it's very simple to make an appointment online. You just go to your student center on SPIRE on the lower right-hand side, and you want to navigate and just kind of click from there. So we're going to meet at least 3 times each semester. We had a group meeting in September. Hopefully you all attended. And then we have today. And then we're going to have one more. We're going to have a group. I actually call it a one-on-one, but it's a small group one-on-one prior to your enrollment appointment. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we kind of go along. And this will be my first time that I have doing these on Zoom. So we're going to have a small group in Zoom, have some conversation, and then we'll move to the breakout room for a person at a time to come out and kind of go back and forth. So we'll talk about that some more. Students must declare a major prior to the end of their 3rd semester. So it's really important for you to be kind of thinking about this. It's the 3rd semester on campus. It does nothing to do with how many credits that you have. And so this time next year, if you're still an exploratory track student, you're really going to need to get to a major. And you're going to need to work really closely with Ben. That does not stop you from pursuing computer science based on your scenario or your situation. But you might have to declare something before you actually get into computer science. So just know that there's kind of a little line out there that you're gonna have to pay attention to. Another thing with advising, kind of on a random point, ARR, Academic Requirements Report. That is a great document. It will tell you everything you have to do to graduate from UMass, all the major requirements, college requirements, and gen eds. But as an exploratory track student, that's really only good for your gen eds because there are no graduation requirements for exploratory track because it's not a major, something you cannot graduate with. And we are going to talk about ARRs a little bit more. FERPA, I throw this out every year in this slideshow because it's really important. FERPA is the Privacy Act that has to do with education. And essentially it says that this is your education. And so that anybody who calls and inquires about your academic status, about wanting to have a conversation about you, mom, dad, uncle, friend, or whatever, I cannot do that unless you and I have had a conversation first and you have waived some or all of your privacy rights. The bottom line is this is your education, no matter who the bill payer is. You do have the ability to waive some or all of it, but that is your choice. And so you are now in the driver's seat definitely as it relates to your education. So we've already had a couple of scenarios where we've had some conversation with parents. So just know that you are in charge of that. There's nothing I can do though if we're on a Zoom call and mom or dad just is there. I will talk to you about FERPA, but there's nothing I can do about asking them to leave. So that's just to be a sticky point. Okay, so CICS programs. We have the BS, the BA, we have informatics, and we have a minor, and we have the IT minor. So let's talk a little bit about the BS program. So the thing I want to highlight here is it's 14 computer science type courses, 4 math courses, and 2 lab science requirements. And so I got to ask an administrative thing. Hey, Alex, on my screen, as you're looking at it, can you see the whole chart or do you see on the right-hand side people? Um, because on my screen, I see I've got all the people kind of
And I see your whole chart.
perfect. Okay,
When
thanks.
when you're sharing a screen, I see the whole chart.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so 14, 4, and 2. The thing else I want to highlight are the red circles. So 220 and 230 are programming intents, 240 and 250 are math intents. And so you can only take one of those in a semester. So you can't take 240 and 250 in the same semester. There's also no required pairing of those two. So you don't have to take a specific pairing. You're free to do which one you want. Normally or unofficially, if you will, students take 220 and 250 together and normally 230 and 240 together. But there again, there's no requirement for that pairing. So some of the folks that are in 187 this semester, we're going to talk very specifically about those courses and which ones you should go after and the strategy you're going to use. Folks that are in 121, we're going to go after 187. The BA. The BA was set up a long time ago. Well, a long time, probably 10 years ago now, with the intent to make it logistically easier for students to double major in computer science and something else. It's not a requirement for you to double, if you're a BA, for you to double in something else, but that was the intent. So you only have 10 computer science courses. You only have 3 math courses. You got to take Calc 1 and Calc 2, and then you have a tremendous flexibility is what that third math course is. But you do have a foreign language. If English is your second language, then there's a couple different ways that you can satisfy that requirement without taking any courses. If you took some language in high school, depending on what level you got to, that might fulfill that requirement or might partially help you with the requirement. And then you have a 4-course concentration there at the very bottom. And that intent is for, the intent was for that to come out of your second major. And so if you don't have a second major, then you need 4 upper level sequential courses in the same subject area. And you do need to get those approved through your advisor. And start with your advisor. There's a process to get those approved. Very simple, but just know that there's a 4-course concentration outside of the major. Informatics program. It's not a CS program.
Greg,
It's an applied CS program.
Greg,
Yeah.
can I have you hide your doc for me, or your it's blocking kind of. If you go up to go into your doc and try to hide it for
Go
me.
up here where it says at the very top part or the bottom part.
If you go to Finder, and you go to View.
Wait a minute, Finder.
Actually, I'll probably, let's see. It's just blocking part of the.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. Actually, hold on a second. What I want you to do. Actually, go ahead and continue. Don't worry about it.
Wait, there it is. Whatever I did.
Yeah, perfect.
I don't know what the hell I did, but there we go.
There we go. All right.
All right. So it's an applied CS program, a data science. It's you're more digging for data to answer questions by the information or ask questions or answer questions. Very little programming, but it's more of data management. What are you doing with it? And you usually have 2 choices. Oh, you have 2 choices. You either have to kind of go towards the hard science side or the social science side. And that's going to be part of the application process. What is it you want to study? Because a big part of this is electives outside of the CS program. So as an example, if you're really interested in money and answering, key indexy types of questions through data, then you're probably going to go into take a lot of economics type courses. If you're into public health, and you're obviously going to get into a lot of science stuff. So a big piece of this is another area that you want to apply this knowledge to. So seven curriculum type courses, 4 in a concentration, then 6 electives, and then obviously your gen eds. Informatics has got 2 advisors, Dr. Trim and Fabian. Fabian's in our office. Dr. Trim is the associate director of the program. And on a side note, that third bullet to the application process, the student has to take Info 150, get a C or better, Computer Science 121, get a C or better, 2.5 cumulative GPA, and you apply. And in your application, it's a narrative, then you just got to articulate what it is that excites you, what it is you think you want to do with this, and what area do you want to apply it to. Okay, so CS. They changed the criteria really has not changed. So you probably heard that there's been a revision to the CS application. The criteria really hasn't changed. You still got to get a B or better in computer science and math 132, calc 2, and you got to get a B or better in computer science 187. If you don't get those B's in that, then the world hasn't stopped spinning, and you still have a chance to get in, depending on how bad you missed it and what semester you're in this whole process. Kind of on a side note, if every student has to get a B or better in computer science 121 in order to be eligible to take 187, if you get a C minus or below in 121, then you need to take that class again. If you get a C, C plus, or B minus in 121, then you have to take 186. 186 is what I would call a preparatory class for 187. You've got to get a C or better in 186 before you can take 187 the next semester. But during this registration process, if you feel really good about getting a B or better in 121, then we're going to run through the process, the paperwork. You're going to submit some overrides and stuff to get into 187. But we'll talk about some strategies based on how you feel about 121. But at the end of the rainbow, if you get a B minus or below, then even if you get into 187, they're going to take you out and you're going to have to get into 186. Okay, so the application process is, did I get ahead of myself? I got a little ahead of myself. So when you apply on the 1st of October, you will get a confirmation receipt of the application, and you will not hear anything again until later in the semester of a confirmation of your actual application. Right now, you're just getting a computer generated receipt that your application was received. But once grades are posted, then you're going to know if you got into the major. So there's no real hidden agenda here. The application, as you noticed, for those who applied, is only 1 page long. And so if you achieve the grades, all the criteria that's listed on the revised website, then you're going to be in once the grades are posted. Okay. But because there is an application process, it's extremely important to have some kind of a backup plan. Hence my last bullet there. And this is at least the second time I've kind of talked about the importance of a backup plan. So the pathways, those are 2 new terms to us this year, not to you, because everything's new to you. So pathway 1 and pathway 2. I really kind of boiled it right down, kind of highlighted some things. There's a lot of criteria, a lot of different criteria in each of the pathways, a lot of nuances, if you will, but it comes right down to, for pathway 1, if you're enrolled in 187 and 132, you would apply under pathway 1. You could have already earned AP credit for 132. You could be in a higher level math, but you would still be applying under pathway 1. Pathway 2, I think the intent there is if you did not get in the first time, or did not apply for some reason the first time when you were in 187. But pathway 2 is when you're enrolled in 220 or 230 and 240 or 250. And you would still be required to get the certain grades that are listed in the on the website, because there are some nuances when you get to pathway 2. And those are the two deadlines. And there at the very bottom, there is the website. And it's very simple to Google it, UMass CS application. And you'll be the first thing that shows up. And then there's one more click and then you're into it. So it's very easy to find. And I'd be happy at the end to talk more specifics if somebody's got some more specific questions. So there's probably a handful of students out there that have applied because they're in 187. But the rest of you will be applying next semester as long as you can get into 187. All right, so spring 21 registration. It's extremely important as far as the importance and priority of things. Focus on CS. So what I mean by that is, what are the required courses that you need to take so that you can apply or be competitive to get in CS? And at this stage of the game, it's at least one computer science course and it's probably one math course, depending on where you are. So that still leaves you with 2 other classes that you can be thinking about. So you need to be thinking about a backup plan, other majors. But there are some nuances here we're going to talk about. Your enrollment appointment, it is now posted on SPIRE, and I've got a slide here in a little bit. It'll show you exactly where it is, but essentially it's on the right-hand side of your student homepage. And it's a very specific date, and you click details and it's going to give you the very specific time. So your enrollment appointment is a very specific appointment that you have, or it's an appointment you have with SPIRE, not with an advisor. That is the very first opportunity that you can start enrolling in courses. Now, keep in mind that every 10 minutes, 50 new students can log into SPIRE and start registering for classes. So hence you need to be prepared. That's why I'm causing you to do some homework, fill out that pre-registration form, and put courses in your shopping cart and be prepared, because you really don't want to give away any of that seniority. So, if you wait another hour or 2 or 3, then you're giving away a little bit of seniority. The only reason you should be waiting is if you're in a class and you really, because you don't want to skip a class so that you can enroll in classes. But the second that you have a break in there, you want to switch over to SPIRE and start registering for classes. So, but after your enrollment appointment, all the way through the break, all the way through the first 2 weeks of classes, you can change things around. Now you can swap out of classes, but you want to be prepared so that you can maximize your seniority. It's all based on credits that you've transferred in through AP or transfer, and the number of credits you have now. So you might have been starting to talk to some of your friends, and some of you guys might have different appointments, but it's all appointment times. It's all based on credits. So date and time with SPIRE, really be prepared. I like to see, or my guidance is to have more than 10 classes in your shopping cart. You need to prioritize them and deconflict them. And what I really mean is put 2, maybe 3 math classes as an example. So let's say you really like Math 132, the one that meets Tuesday, Thursday at 10:10. Well, you want to have another one in there just in case by the time you start registering for classes, that one is already booked. It's already full, so you can't register for it. So instead of wasting time and going back into SPIRE and finding another math class, you've already done your homework. You like this next math class. Well, then that has a ripple effect. That might have a conflict with the computer science course that you need. So you might need to have a different one. So it's really important to have lots of classes in there with lots of branches and sequels, some different decision points, just in case something gets, you don't get exactly what you want. But you want to come out of that enrollment appointment. You want to finish that first experience with 3, maybe 4 classes that you want, even if they're your bottom choices, because they're your choices. And then you go back and you can check every day, multiple times every day, to see if that class opened back up, because people do add and drop classes. It's what we call churn. So people are dropping and adding classes all the time. So if all of a sudden that class that you really wanted, a slot opens up, you want to be ready to swap out of the one you like the least for the one you like the most. Prioritize and deconflict them. It's important to watch restrictions and conflicts when you're developing your plan and putting classes in your shopping cart, because the SPIRE will not let you register for a class that has a conflict, a time conflict, and if you don't meet the restrictions. Register for at least 3 courses, preferably 4, depending on where you are. And what I mean by that is, I might be getting a little ahead of myself here, but what I really mean by that is, you will not be able to register for Computer Science 187 on your own. You will be able to register for 186 if you choose to. And you will not be able to register for any 200 series courses, because when you read the restrictions, you don't meet any of those restrictions. And the first one is you're not a CS major. And so that will stop you from registering for those classes. As a result, we do have an override process, and we are going to talk about that here in just a little bit. So what that really means is you're going to submit this override, and you're going to leave room on your schedule for when that specific class meets. So you don't want to register an elective or a math class during that time that CS 187 meets, or 220 and 250, whichever ones that you really wanted for the computer science courses. All right, so your spring schedule. You're going to submit overrides for the CS classes that you need, and that that timeline is going to open sometime around November 19th, give or take. Did not have an official release date of that, but it's usually sometime soon after classes. Everybody's had the opportunity to register for classes. So you're going to submit an override for CS classes. So if you are in 187 and 132 now, then what I strongly recommend you do is you submit four overrides. One for 220, one for 230, one for 240, and one for 250. Now, on the bottom of those override forms, and they're like 3 or 4 pages long, they're just a Google Doc forms, it's a whole bunch of point and clicks. But at the very end, you have a chance to actually, it's like a remarks block. You can kind of communicate something to them. And what I strongly recommend you do is you type in the same phrase on all 4 overrides. I prefer 220 and 250. I prefer 220, 250. I prefer 220, 250. I prefer 220, 250. And so that's going to go on the bottom of all of those. And so when they're processing these overrides, because they're really going to try to give you what you want. And if for some reason those classes are too full and they can't put any more students in them, then they're going to go to your second choice. And if you did not submit a second choice, then they're going to stop. They won't do anything more for you on either one of those. Okay. So it's really important to submit 4 with that verbiage on the bottom. Leave room on your schedule for the CS classes. Overrides will be processed. So when you're leaving room for that on your schedule, it's going to be for a while until grades have been posted onto SPIRE. And that's going to be sometime in, I believe it's mid to late December, if I'm not mistaken. So don't be surprised if you're not in that class until after that, which I'd be surprised if you're in that class before that happens. And then another reminder, register for at least 3 courses, preferably 4. And so if you've registered for 4 and they go to put you into a computer science course and they can't because you have too many credits, then they're going to send you an email saying, hey, you just need to drop something so that we can give you the classes you want. And that's okay. You're just going to stay very proactive on your email, and you're going to do what they ask, and then you're going to email them right back. So that's why I say register for at least 3 courses, preferably 4. So your fall schedule or your spring schedule, by the time ad drop ends in February, you need to be in 4 classes, maybe 5. You need to be in a computer science course. Maybe 2 computer science courses. If you're in 187 now, you're going to be shooting to in 180 and 132. You're going to be in 2 computer science courses in the spring, as long as you perform well this semester. You're going to be in a math course of some sort. Some people might not be, but most people will be. English writing. If you did not take English writing 112 in the fall, you have to take it in the spring. And you should have all taken the English writing test. If you did not take that, then you need to go back into the English writing program website and take that. But I think all of you have taken it. So if you didn't take it in the fall, you got to take it in the spring. A diversity class, if you did not take that in the fall, you've got to take that in the spring. And then we get into major exploration type classes. So you're going to be in a CS, a math, maybe a gen ed, preferably some kind of a major exploration type class. And so this is really important for you to kind of do a little bit of research. That's why the majors fair is, the timing is perfect. For you to ask some questions, go online to find what majors you might be interested in: physics, philosophy, economics, or whatever. We can have a conversation during the small group, but it's not going to be a very long conversation. We just don't have time to have really long ones. But we will have some time after the start of November to make an additional appointment. But that's when you would do major, that would be the next importance, the next priority of classes. I strongly recommend you not take the lab science requirement for CS now. You're free to do that, but I don't recommend that unless that is one of your backup plans. As an example, if you're really thinking about chemistry as a backup plan, well, then you obviously need to be taking the chemistry lab sequence. Same way with physics, same way with geology. The only other time that I would recommend you take the lab science if you are really strongly considering engineering as a backup. Depending on which engineering, the lab sciences are extremely important and timely, if you will. So if you're thinking about computer systems or electrical engineering, you've got to be on the physics sequence at your very soonest. Other than that, we need to get into major exploration stuff. They're much more important than the lab science, because the lab science classes don't help you get into the major. They just help you once you're in the major, and you have plenty of time to complete all of those requirements. So then the asterisks need to submit an override. Open class, no. So for 186, there is no override needed. You'll be able to fulfill, you need to be able to register for that if you're in 121. If you want to get into 187 or anything higher, you will need to submit an override. So this is the override link. There again, you can easily Google it, UMass CS override. It'll be the first one that comes up. There again, it won't go live until about the 19th of November. It's about 3, 4, maybe 5 pages long, but it's a whole bunch of point and clicks, just a Google Doc at the very end. It sends itself off. And you will get a confirmation after that within a couple of days, acknowledging that they got your override. You don't ever, never submit duplicate overrides. So you don't want to send duplicates, period. Don't do that. If you want to check on the status of it, then you can reply back to the email that you get. But there again, don't worry about it. As long as you got that email confirming receipt of it, they're not going to do anything with it until after grades are posted, which is going to be late December. So you're going to need to submit an override for CS 187 and any 200 series courses if you are in 187 now. If you're in 187 and you're submitting for the 200 series, you're going to submit 4, but you only want to leave room for your top 2 choices, because if you try to leave room for all 4 choices, then you're not going to, it's going to have a hard time filling your schedule with courses that you want. And so if you leave room for your top 2 choices and they have to give you something else, when they go to register you for that, because they're going to register you for those courses. That's a good side note thing. When you submit your override, they finally process and approve it. They're just going to put you into that class. So you're just going to show up on SPIRE. You'll see it all of a sudden, 220, boom, it's there. So when they're processing your overrides and they've got to go to your backup choices for those 200 series courses and there's a conflict, there again, they're just going to send you an email. You're going to need to drop something. Once you do that, then you email them back and they will put you into the course. So it's very, very important after classes are over to watch your email, to continuously watch your email and SPIRE, because things might just pop up on there. A class might just show up. Won't be processed until grades. Well, it could be as late as mid-January. I think the earliest would be late December, but might be as late as January. Watch your email, watch your email, watch your email. It's extremely important, even in the off season, as I say, in between semesters. So Inspire, your enrollment appointments are posted. So on the left, on the right-hand side, in the middle, you're going to see enrollment dates, and it's now populated with a date, a November timeframe. You can tell that this one's a few years old. I got this, the example's dated 17, but they're now posted, and you'll see where it says, let me see if I can, hold on a second, let me, right here where it says details, you click that and it's going to give you the very specific time on that date. So anytime from that period on, from that date on is when you, that date and time on is when you can start registering for classes. But please, please, please use your seniority and be ready to go. Holds, another important one to watch for. Those you'll see, and that's the one that we put on you, or I put on you, and it's designed to have this conversation so that we can talk very specifically about what it is you need to register for the spring. So this is the first piece of it. The next piece is going to be the small group meeting where you're going to bring your pre-registration form filled out, and we're going to have a conversation, just you and me, about that very specific form. And so by the end of that meeting, you'll be ready to enroll in classes. All right, so the holds and enrollment dates. All right, what did I do wrong here? Trying to go to the next slide. Okay. It's not letting me do, oh, there we go. What did I do? Okay. Good. All right. I fixed it. Okay. So the next one I want to kind of show you on your SPIRE is your ARR, your Academic Requirements Report. So on your student home, you get your schedule that sits right there in the front. And then to the right, or I'm sorry, to the left of that, you'll see a drop-down menu. This drop-down menu is from my view of you or of a student. You've got a lot, I think you have double the amount of options on that drop-down. However, they're both the same. They're both the very first ones. You want to look for ARR, no shopping cart. You want to click that, and then that will bring you to your, oh, that's right, to your ARR. And as far as an ET goes, that's only going to get into detail of gen eds. And you'll be able to see if you've fulfilled those or not. And so that's what you want to use for your planning guide when you get down to start registering for gen eds. And you will fill that out on your pre-registration form of how many gen eds you still have left to go. Okay, so here is the pre-registration form. This is the kind of the really important document that you need to spend some quality time filling out. It's not hard, but I need you to really take some time to fill this out appropriately, and don't just kind of whip through it. At the very top, you just need to print your name, and you can, this is on a PDF and you can write on it who your advisor is, your student ID, what is your intended major. So right now you're all exploratory track. So what is it you think you want? Most of you, or some of you, want CS. And then the next one is, what is a backup plan? What are you thinking about at this point? That's going to be really important for me to use so that when we have a conversation, It will help me make recommendations for courses that you should stay away from or should you gravitate to, that kind of thing. And your GPA, you do not, well, some of you might have a GPA from this summer. If you have one, great. If not, just put NA. The next one is your enrollment appointment. So you go back on Aspire. What date is your enrollment appointment? What time? And then literally type in what holds that you have. Okay. Don't assume that I know exactly which hold that you have. Your gen eds. What did I just do? Um, oh. I'm just trying to figure out how to draw on my own screen. So thanks for bearing with me. So the next block is your gen eds. You want to go back through your ARR and see which ones that you still need to do. So, so either click off the ones that, well, click off the ones that you still need to do. If you leave them blank, if you're in them or you have completed them. Okay. So that will also help me when we have our conversation. The next one, this block, these are the courses that you are taking right now. And what do you think you're going to get for a grade? Your best guess. That's all it is, just a best guess. Don't overinflate, don't underinflate, just what, is kind of an accurate assessment of what you think you're going to get. That's going to shape our conversation when we start talking about next semester. Because we're going to have a different conversation if you think you're getting an A in that class versus if you're getting an F in that class. So it's a different kind of a conversation. So give me your best estimate. And then the next one, this is where you need to do some homework. So first, let me get rid of that. So these are the choices. Is this a first choice or second choice? Yes. Is this what you really want? No, is a backup. The course number. So it's math 132, computer science 187, geology 101, philosophy 106, 164, whatever the courses are goes here. Are there any prerequisites for that course? That you will be able to find in SPIRE as well. Do you need an override? Yes or no? What's the reason for taking it? Major exploration, primary major, just an interest, it's a gen ed, whatever it is. What's the reason? And then what are the number of credits? Okay. Those are all really important to fill out. And you don't need to fill this thing to fill this thing, but I want you to fill it with appropriate courses that you have some interest in. Okay. Now you don't have to worry about the back. Comments are on the back. I will make comments after we have our conversation in that group meeting that you've made an appointment for starting sometime after Wednesday or after. Okay. So another side note, classes should be posted to SPIRE pretty soon. The latest I've heard that they could be posted is the 26th of October. So that might be a small problem for people that are going to meet with me on Wednesday or Thursday. So it's going to be more important for you to do a little bit of research on websites that you are interested in that specific major. Or if you know that you've got to take English writing, it's very simple. You just put English writing 112. Or if you have to take a diversity, you might just want to list that there. But you can always look historically at other courses from previous semesters, what has been offered in the past. And it's usually a pretty good guide. It's not a guarantee, but it's usually a pretty good guide. And during our meetings, hopefully we'll have a peer advisor in there. If we do, that's another great resource. You'll also be able to talk to the 10 other students or 9 other students that are in those group sessions when you and I are not having a conversation. So those are also a couple of things that will be able to help you find some courses if classes have not been posted to SPIRE yet. All right. Okay, so I got a little ahead of myself. Okay, so a couple things. We're getting close. please keep in mind, I want you to focus on CS. That's your first priority. So whatever math class and CS course, those are the top priority. The next one is to explore other majors and departments. Take courses that interest you and excite you in areas that you're potentially interested in. You might take a course and you realize that it's really exciting or it's really not. It's still very worthwhile and it's going to help you in the end because it's going to count towards graduation credits. Take your time with gen eds. I say this every semester and I've already said it probably 100 times this semester. You guys do not need to be in a hurry to complete your gen eds. You have 4 years to take them. You have plenty of time to take it. Those are designed to be spread out over the time you're here. I would much rather you take a course, a gen ed course in an area that you think you have some interest as your first priority, instead of just taking that gen ed to fulfill that requirement. Now, once you become a senior and you still have 2 gen eds to do, then we're just taking anything that fits your schedule at that point. But now you've got plenty of time to do that. So don't be in a hurry to do that. Develop a backup plan, develop some kind of an academic plan. You know, what is it you think you want to explore? So there again, you take an economics class because you're interested in money. If you really like it, great. That could be the backup plan. If you really dislike it, that's great too. We check that off the block and we don't have to worry about that anymore. We move on to the next area that you think you might be interested in. And you got to keep in mind, you've got to be in some major by the end of your 3rd semester. Depending on where you are in your process of taking CS math courses, you might still have a chance to apply to CS, or you might be in your 3rd semester, that might be your last time to apply. So you just need to be in a major by the end of your 3rd semester. All right, so what's next? If you remember in the email, I said we're got a 3-step process. So step 1 is today. So hopefully I've kind of laid some things out about what next semester needs to look like. I talked a little bit about the pre-registration form and how you got to do some footwork on that based on your interests. So step 1 is today. You need to fill out and bring the pre-registration form to your appointment. If you have not made an appointment, dig that email back out that caused you to learn about today's meeting. And in there's a hyperlink that you can make an appointment from. If you try to make it in any other way, it won't work because I've locked up most of my time. You've got to attend one of these meetings. Step 2, make that appointment, attend that appointment, bring your pre-registration form with you. When we go to a breakout room, each one of you and I are going to go to a breakout room during that meeting, and we're going to have a 2 to 10 minute conversation about you. And you're going to share your screen. You're going to flash that pre-reg form up there. I'm going to write on it. We're going to talk about it. You're going to take a lot of notes. And then we're going to move out of that, and somebody else is going to come in. At that point in time, you're going to then email me back your pre-registration form based on all the notes in our conversation. Once I get that, then I will lift your hold, and then you will be free to register for courses. So step 1, 2, and 3. So right now we're finishing up step 2. Step 1, step 2 is to make an appointment, come with your pre-reg form filled out. We have a conversation. You amend it, you send it back to me, and then then you're free to register for courses. Questions? Comments?
All right, Greg, we got a couple questions.
Okay.
For the courses that require B or better to enter the CS major, does B- count?
No, B- is not a B, so B- is a B-. So if you get a B-, then you cannot repeat that course. But depending on what course that is would then dictate the strategy that we move forward. Just to reiterate the repeat policy, I don't know if I touched on that today. Repeat policy, UMass says that a student can repeat a course if they earned a C- or below in that class. And so you register for it, you take it again, the grade you earned the second time is the grade that is calculated in your GPA. The first grade is pulled out of the formula. the first grade will always be visible on your transcripts, but when you do the math, you'll see that it's not calculated in there. Do not repeat a class that you earned a C or higher than a C minus. It's an illegal repeat. Okay. All right. What's the next one?
Can you have informatics as a backup?
Yes, you can have informatics as a backup plan, but keep in mind that there is an application process to informatics. Um, and so there is a chance that you would not get into that major as well. So in that, excuse me, in that rare instance, we're going to at least talk about what the backup plan to that is. The cool thing with informatics is there's kind of a built-in one there, because keep in mind that with informatics, it's an applied CS program. So you're going to have to apply this to another academic discipline. So you're already thinking about something else. What is you going to apply this to? Is it, you know, social science type of major, social science type of study, or is it a hard science type of study? All right, what's next?
If we're in 187 but haven't done math 132, should we override into all 4 of the 200 series, or just the ones that don't require math 132?
So you're not going to, if you look at the prerequisites for 240 and 250, you have to have 132. So you hit the nail on the head there. So if you're in 131 now and 187 now, then next semester you're in 220 or 230 and math 132. And then that's when you would be able to apply to the computer science major next semester. So in that case, you're only going to submit 2 overrides. But then again, you're going to list your preference. Do you choose, do you want 230 or do you want 240? And you're very specifically going to write that same comment on the bottom of each of those 2 overrides.
I have a question that there's an answer given. I just want to confirm it. The question is, when can we start putting classes in the shopping cart? The answer provided was, I believe you said by October 26th, the spring schedule should be released to put the classes in the shopping cart. Is that correct?
Yes, as soon as the spring classes are posted on SPIRE, that's when you can start filling your shopping cart. There's nothing that you can fill it with now because there's nothing there yet. So I was very disappointed when I learned today that it's not going to be until as late as the 26th. There's still a chance it could be earlier than that. But that's the earliest that you can put things in your shopping cart.
Next question. If we enrolled in Gen Eds for the winter course, do we still have to fill that out in the requirements we need on the pre-registration form?
No, if you sign up for a winter course and it's a gen ed, I don't have a place in that pre-registration form, but make some kind of a side note and bring that to my attention so that we can have a conversation about that. Because I just want to make sure that, you know, the course is what you think it is, and is it going to do what it is you want to do. And then from there, it'll also dictate how we plan the spring. So if you are in fact taking a winter course, please communicate that somehow on that form, so that we can at least touch on that when we have our discussion.
How can we add classes to our shopping carts if, actually, no, you already answered that. Can we declare math as the backup major, and if everything goes well, then maybe double major with CS?
Yes, yes. That's math and computer science are logistically the easiest 2 majors to double in. And so if you are thinking about doubling in math and CS, let me back up a second more. If you're thinking about doubling in anything, my standard guidance is to get into those majors at your soonest opportunity, because you'll be given, you know, 2 advisors, one for each major. The bigger reason is that you don't have as much, your time is more valuable. Your time, you don't have as much wiggle room to take courses in other areas. And so by getting into the majors as soon as you can, then it frees up an advisor, then you can then communicate your plan with them and they would be able to say, okay, this works. You might want to take this one instead of this one and that kind of stuff. So when you're piecing together semesters. And so in that scenario, if you're thinking about doubling in CS and math, I would encourage you to declare math soon. If you don't do it now, that's fine. But I would definitely recommend you do it in early spring semester. Um, and then if you apply to computer science and you get in, then you can make one your primary and one your secondary. And you still are double majoring, and now you still have two advisors. The bottom line is if you're thinking about doubling, get into one of them at your soonest while you're still trying to apply to the second one.
Is it possible for for ET students to take CS 187 over the winter, since we need an override and those become available around November 19th?
So I would have to go and look at the restriction, because 187 was just recently put on SPIRE for the winter. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a minute and move over to SPIRE real quick, and I'll look at that as we are chatting. Because in the summer, usually there's no overrides needed, summer or winter. And this is the first time that any computer science course has been offered in the winter. So this is unique as well. So, but in the summer, when they have computer science courses, you don't need to have an override, just need to do all of the things and the restrictions. So let me go back to sharing my screen. So I just learned something. In order for me to read the questions, Alex, I have to stop sharing my screen.
That's right. That's what I'm here. That's what I'm here to do. No problem.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right. So if you can see, I just searched for 187 for the winter, and let me pull my annotate here. There we go. So you'd want to look at the restrictions box. And so prerequisite 121, you have to have a B or better. If you're in 186, you have to have a C or better. Then it talks about the cost. It is costly, so it's 482 per credit hour. So it's 482 times 4 plus $47 fee. Students without the prerequisites unable to enroll in Inspire must contact 187, blah, blah, blah. So what that is specifically talking to, this last restriction here, is if you do not have 121 or 186, but think you're still qualified to take this course, then you have to contact that email. If you are enrolled in 121 now, you don't have your grade yet, but SPIRE is going to let you for the winter register for this course. If you in fact earn a B- or C+, then SPIRE at some point, or computer science, is going to kick you out of 187 because you did not fulfill that prerequisite. But for now, you would be able to register for 187 as long as you're enrolled in 121 or 186. Hopefully that answered that question.
Okay, so I think we have a couple more here. Should we enroll in backup classes, or just put them in the shopping cart and enroll when we didn't get into the CS major?
So at this point, we are assuming that all is well, and you're registering for the courses that are the next appropriate ones. So that's the easy example. So the easy example is, let's say you're in 180, 121 and 131 now. So you're going to submit an override for 187. You're going to keep that time frame free. You're going to register for Math 132. You are going to register for one of those two classes. You don't have the English or the diversity. And if you don't have both of them, then you're going to register for both of those. And if you still have room, then you're going to register for a major exploration class. Now, if you're on the fence, in the sense that, let's say you're marginally performing in computer science 121, then we're going to have a slightly different conversation. We might talk about enrolling in 186, or we might be having a different conversation about what is your backup plan and how serious is that, because you're going to need to potentially repeat 121 because you might not be doing well. So at this stage, you're not going to be registering for anything until after we're going to have a conversation first. But what you can do is you can put a lot of things in your shopping cart, and we're going to have a very specific conversation. We're going to move things around. I might, on that pre-registration form, I might tell you to don't take this course and don't take this course. And I might write 2 or 3 other courses that you might want to look at based on your interest. So at this point, once classes are open on SPIRE, you're going to put things in your shopping cart. They're either going to be a priority of yours or not. And then you and I are going to chat about that, and then that might get tweaked. Your pre-registration form might get tweaked, and you might add different types of courses in your shopping cart, or not, depending on how well you have prepared.
All right, so we have 2 more questions. I think we may have answered this one, but I'm not positive. I just wanted to confirm when the soonest we would be able to enroll in classes on SPIRE is.
So that's going to be on SPIRE. You'll be able to see your enrollment appointment, your enrollment date. That's the date, the time. If you click into details, it will give you the very specific time. That is the earliest that you will be able to register for courses. You might have heard November 3rd kicked around as a date, or November 8th, or some other thing. Those big swaths, those very general dates, are based on seniority. So seniors can start registering as a whole on November 3rd, but they are also given enrollment dates. But that's when SPIRE opens up to the most senior of credits, if you will. And then it just kind of keeps going, comes down. It's all based on seniority. So the earliest you can do it is at your enrollment appointment.
Last question. If I took a diversity course over the summer, does that count toward a freshman year diversity requirement?
I'm going to make a judgment call and say yes.
Oh, another question. If someone does take 187 over the winter, should their strategy for spring 2021 be the same as those in CS 187 right now, in terms
Yes.
of submitting 4 overrides and that type of thing?
Yes. But you're not going to submit your overrides for this 200 series courses until after classes start for 187. Because the logical thing, they're going to see this override and they're going to say, why is somebody submitting overrides for 200 series courses when they're only enrolled in 121? They're not going to see that you're taking 187 in the winter until actually classes start. So that particular student, let's just kind of make sure we've kind of revisited that when we chat.
Okay, if we submit 4 overrides and say we prefer 2 of those.
Yes.
I guess, okay. Oh, wait,
So,
sorry. Then do we have to leave our shopping cart spots open?
so when you are submitting your 4 overrides, you're going to, when you're planning your schedule, you do not want to schedule anything during the time of your first 2 choices. So as an example, let's say you really wanted 220 and 250. And I don't know when they meet, but let's just say they meet, 220 meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:10, and 250 meets Tuesday, Thursday at 4 in the afternoon. You do not want to register for any other kinds of courses during that time frame. You're free to, but I would not do that. It makes it really easy. So when they're processing your override, they give you your first 2 choices, then they can just slam you into those courses. They don't have to email you and ask you to drop some or move some things around. You do not want to leave room for all 4 choices, because then your schedule is just going to be, your week is going to be rather filled. You're going to kind of want to protect a lot of time, which takes a lot of courses off the table for you to potentially take. If they have to get to your backup choices, 230 in this example and 240, and you've registered for a course during then you're going to have to do a little bit of scrambling. But let's not do that now until you have to. So keep room for your top 2 choices, submit overrides for all 4, list your choices, and then register for 2 or 3 other courses on top of that.
That's it. I just asked if you want to ask additional questions, please raise your hand. Nobody else has raised their hand yet.
Everybody's good? All right. Well, thank you so very much for coming. I hope you learned something, and I look forward to seeing you guys sometime starting Wednesday or after. If you haven't done, haven't made an appointment, please do so.